Welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast, a podcast where we focus on real issues and have real talk, and as always, provide a biblical perspective. We hope that you will be blessed as you listen.
Hello and welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast. This is the Amazing Truth Minute.
This is the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Like us on Facebook at the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
For the Amazing Truth Minute, today we'll focus on 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. And it says, "Therefore we do not lose heart, even though our outward man is perishing. Yet the inward man is being renewed day by day." As we get older, our bodies don't stay in the same shape they were when we were young. Even if we take excellent care of ourselves, our bodies are impacted by age, and some physical decline is inevitable. Spiritually, however, we have every potential to get stronger with each passing year. The Apostle Paul experienced troubles and heartache during his ministry, but he didn't allow himself to be discouraged. Instead, he wrote, "Therefore, we do not perish. We do not lose heart. Even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day." Like everyone else, Paul experienced an aging body, but the older he got, the stronger he became spiritually. You see, as believers, we can look to our older years with great anticipation, because the longer our history with God, the greater our potential to enjoy a vibrant spiritual life with Jesus. Our bodies will age, but we can remain strong in the Lord until He calls us home. And that is the Amazing Truth Minute.
The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
All right, welcome back. Welcome everyone. Man, beautiful
Thank
faces.
you.
Kenan,
Yeah.
I love you, man. You know I do. But it's good to see these two guys here. Did you have to go there? Really?
I wish I could say the same.
Anyways, you see, this is why I don't never give compliments. Because he overdoes it.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyways,
Ezra, I love you too, man. I do.
I hope you mean it, but
Yeah,
I
I do.
believe you. All right, I believe you. But let's
never
look
about
at
us.
these guys.
It's
Let's look
never
at this. I mean, first of all, you guys look at the cameras and smile. It's been a while, right? It's been nice to see you guys back. You don't need any introduction, but I think it's fair enough that you guys get to introduce yourself one more time. You know, last time it was behind the cameras. This time people can actually put
the
the
full
name
glare.
to their faces, right?
Yes.
So
You make it sound so scary.
let's start with the lady.
The ladies first.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you-
Well, hello. It's really, really good to be back. And my name is Rehema. I was here a few months back talking about mental health and resilience and being able to use your community and your passions to get over certain things. Definitely being patient with our parents as well. So I'm glad and happy to be back so that we can give feedback of everything that happened. And
Awesome.
thank you for having me back.
Awesome. By the way, before we go for audience, listeners, one thing you have to know that this is a reflective mode we are in. Our guests are not strangers. They are part of the Amazing Truth Podcast Ministry family. So we are happy to have them back. So welcome back, Rehema.
Thank you very much, Ezra.
My friend.
And Kenan.
Your name?
Thank you for having me back. My name is Isaiah Gesembe, and just like Rehema, I'm back. I'm happy to be back here today to see you guys. Even though we catch up on the week every now and again, it's always good. I get to see director as well. So
The team has grown.
yes.
No, it's good. It's good. All right, welcome, guys. It's been couple months. You know, the spring is when we had both of you. And actually, let's bring everyone.
spring?
It was spring.
Wow.
It was spring.
February, right?
Yeah, around February, close to.
Ezra, before you go, I just, before we even continue, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. Then I know we gave you thanks. We were appreciative of you coming, but it doesn't take. It takes a lot.
Thank you.
So we want to
Thank you.
appreciate you
Thank you.
from the bottom of our hearts, Ezra and I and the team, we want to thank you for sharing your story and thank you for coming back. So clearly
we're doing something
we're doing
nice.
something right.
And they agreed to come back, right?
So,
Oh,
we're
that's
glad to have you here.
Well, that goes both ways. That means
Yeah.
we did something right to be invited back.
Oh yeah.
No, we appreciate it. By the way,
you.
it was tremendous feedback. I mean, for remember Iso shared his story, and after Iso's story, like it Iso listened to someone's story, and then he reached out, then shared his story. Then after Iso, our friend Danko showed up, and Rehema. It's like we are family. Like we're just a family. And your story, you never know how far it will travel, who it will encourage. And as we always say here, your mess is your message. And your test is your testimony. You have to share it, right?
And we always say this, like when you share,
I like that.
there's someone who's listening.
Exactly.
And just from you guys coming and sharing, we started getting calls, and people are courageous, bold enough to come share and say, not even sharing, they're saying just thank you.
Exactly.
I needed to hear that.
Exactly. And sometimes we need it. We
for
ourselves needed to hear that. So it's nice. It's nice. We're just gonna dive deep into this.
Let's go into it as
Keken, I know you wanna just continue, but let's dive into this.
Let's go into this.
Let's dive into this. Now, in this world we are living, how do you stay sane? Right? There is a lot of look at what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, you think about the earthquakes, you think about relationships and what's happening, you think about our health, mental health, people are dying left, right. How do you stay sane in this world? Or rather, let me ask, have you guys been staying sane before we even get to the stories? Have you guys been
Do
staying
we look sane enough? Might be just a good day.
I think one thing that keeps you going, somebody might.
But Ezra, what's sanity?
What is sanity?
That's another. What's sanity?
Yeah.
I mean, your sanity.
You're asking me?
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Your sanity, my sanity can be different from you.
Okay.
So, but anyway, whatever you do to stay the morally correct sanity, that's what we're talking about.
Assume someone, their bundles or internet might run out. So we want to leave them on a positive note.
Like
one thing that you do to stay sane in your life.
Okay, we'll go fast.
We'll go with the lady.
Yeah, let's go.
Ladies
Go with the
first?
lady first.
Yeah.
No pressure. But I would say it's but this might take time or over as we go through life, knowing something about yourself and standing up for that self, so that even if we may go through things, like you don't crumble. So I think it's that self-love.
Okay.
But that might be broad.
Yeah.
It's just choosing you, I should say.
So for you, it's choosing you and
Selflessly.
knowing your self-worth,
Knowing yourself.
self-value,
Yes,
who you
that
are.
helps.
I think knowing
That takes
yourself
time with.
and then knowing your worth.
Yes.
After,
I think it helps, but like I said, some days are better than others.
Yeah.
But just having that little thing to always be at the back of your head, I think it helps.
All right.
Otherwise, the world is crazy.
All right, Aizo, what do you do? How do you stay sane?
One thing that I practiced this year that people personally who know me, I'm not good at is stepping back.
Okay.
I'm known for upping it up a little bit, even in my previous life. So I carried that habit, that if this is that bad, well, I think I can go a little bit, It's knowing to stay back. And that goes along to even when things are happening, many good things are happening at the same time. It's, stay back and enjoy the moment. It's not the time to think about, what else would be good to add on to this already good thing.
Okay. So one day at a time.
One day at a time. Yeah, it's been hard.
Acceptance.
It's been hard. It's the first time in 32 years I'm doing that. It's hard.
You're 32.
Yes.
You guys are saying, you're revealing ages here.
Thought he was 41.
there. 41.
Okay.
For me, I won't go philosophical like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
guys. I listen to music.
You listen to
Yeah.
I
music.
just listen to music.
That's fair.
You know?
What kind?
What kind? I do not reveal that.
All right.
No,
You
but
listen to
but
music.
honestly,
You love music.
Yeah, I love music, and I like collecting records. So
Yes.
I find records and I collect, and I listen. I listen to music. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
think-
obviously, my kids.
Your kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep me sane.
Kids.
I love them, and my wife, my family. That's what keeps me going. So
Yeah.
Can I add on to this before we go
Yes,
further?
yes.
Since you said music, right? As we know, music affects us psychologically, mood-wise, and everything.
Yeah.
So then would we say that I think we may also have to dive into kind of making sure the kind of music that our youth is listening to?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Yeah.
saying don't do this, but like the
Right.
words and the message they carry. But Yeah, that's another.
You can listen to music that takes you to another world.
Oh yes,
you
it's
know. So
very
good music.
Right.
Yeah, good music.
Music
that's
that keeps
positive.
you sane.
Keeps you sane.
That's
Music
that's
that keeps
that
you
keeps
sane.
you sane.
Keeps you sane. All right. And
What
different-
about you, Ezra? What
for me, I think the season has ended. Just going to the field when men are playing soccer.
Oh man.
You know, I just find
Yeah.
like even when I'm running, that the energy, I let the energy out. If I'm not playing, sometimes I'm not that good, but I play. You know, but when I'm playing, I'm out there. I'm a cheerleader. I'm loud. I'm all that. So I like being around that company. That keeps me sane, and also fellowship. You can tell talking is a weakness that I have.
Yeah.
So just being around where we can share and have good times is something that I like doing.
Ezra,
And I
thank-
watch soccer.
Exactly. Thank you for saying I can't just walk past this one.
I know where
you
you
know where I'm going
I
with
know
this.
where you're going.
So I hope Arsenal we'll leave that from there.
We will leave it there.
I know. I'll be back tomorrow to
We'll
finish
leave
this.
it there. Now let's come back. Let's come back to this. Kenan,
Yeah.
in a sentence or so, right?
Yeah.
Tell us what you learned. A little bit of synopsis of Rehema's story for someone who hasn't watched or listened to her. I want to see how your memory is, and then I'll do Aizo. You know, I've known Aizo longer, so it'll be easier. So
No,
Rehema,
and we encourage you to listen to this podcast. You
Yes.
can find us everywhere where you get your podcast and YouTube as well. So Rehema's story is intriguing. I'll give you a couple of sentences. I think she took us back from how she grew, you know, the family dynamics, and she took us back coming here, you know, and the struggles of settling in this country, and then how she maneuvered and tried to, you know, stay afloat. I'm not so, but yeah, don't correct me. Just take my words. But then she took us also to her break. I'm doing this in summary so people can listen.
Yeah.
She took us to her breaking point and how low she went with substance abuse and mental health. And her turning point was that verse she saw at a stranger's bathroom as she was going to take a shower.
Yeah.
You know, and her turning point from there and how she picked herself up.
And she
And
said-
she's running a beautiful business right now.
Yeah.
She's like a successful business
no.
lady
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
glowing and sitting here right with us to share her story.
And
All right.
congratulations to that.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
We're gonna
much.
celebrate that.
Yeah.
And
Thank you to all of you that have come to support. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
we'll give
We'll
close
give
out.
it,
We'll
yeah,
do those right there.
discounts.
All right, and
Of
discounts,
course,
right?
now.
Now,
Holidays are coming.
Aizo.
Yes.
I've known Aizo for a long time.
Long,
Ever since I came to this country.
Right.
We've known each other, right? Aizo's story is how he grew up in the faith, in the church, and how he used to, you know, he came here as a teenager, will go to high school and live different lives. At school, he was a different person. At home, he was a different person. At church, he was a different person. And all these at some point converged where he couldn't even find who he was, who himself was. And in the process of that, he found himself in substance abuse. And it was something small. One thing led to another, DUI, next another one. And the climax of his story is where he actually loses his job, loses his housing, has to humble himself and move back to family, and he has $5 only left. He's literally homeless. And then that one night that he wrestles and he has this prayer or this thought, and he says like, I can't remember what it was. He had a bottle, right?
Yes.
And he said, take this, the last one, and then after this, I am checking myself in for rehab, right?
Yeah.
And he had that real talk by himself. And then as he walked out of the room, he found the family saying, we think you're going to check. And say, fine. I was actually ready. I just made up that mind. And how he turns around. And now Aizo, he's back. His license he's been licensed back. He's back in the nursing field.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing good. So we are celebrating the highs, the lows, to know that every day is not going to be a Monday. You know, it's going to be Mondays are not the best, but you know, Friday is coming. The weekend is coming. Something to look forward
So Ezra,
to.
let me ask them this question now. As we've shared your story, we've kind of given a summary of your story. When we spoke and invited you to come here, did you wrestle with those thoughts of coming here before you recorded? Just give us the thoughts before you recorded,
And after.
during when you were sharing your story, and then we'll do that. That's why we're doing the after.
The
right
after
now.
one,
So
yeah.
let's just start from there. Before, when we called you and before we set the date and before you came here and the mics are on, what thoughts are going through your mind? We'll start with the lady.
And this is today's reading. I was a little nervous, but I think it's a positive nervous, given that what I shared a few months back, now I'm almost coming back to reflect, which is what it is. But it's also exciting because whomever I may have touched with my story or inspired to seek help or inspired to maybe try other things other than going the extremes that I may have mentioned in my podcast, to be able to see that I've still maintained what I'm doing or what I said that I would do. Because at the end of the day, I think sometimes we fail to hold ourselves accountable because maybe we don't share that, oh, I'm doing this and that. So it's where social media sometimes comes in and is a good thing, because it's like, if you're going to say this, we're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
So are you still doing the same thing? Now, of course, I'm happy to say I've been consistent with it.
Nice.
That's been very, very helpful with mental health as well.
Cool.
Awesome. By the way, today social media was down. People didn't know what to do with their
What's
lives.
up has been done?
I know.
Yes.
All right. Good to hear that, Rehema.
Yes.
Aizo.
At first, I was excited. I was actually in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard, when I was listening to one of your
Faith.
podcasts, Faith and Victor, and then I sent the message, and then it didn't hit me until on my way back. I was like, oh my God, what did I say? What did I do? And the reason why I was nervous is because there have been a lot of narratives about my story. There were very different stories out there, and it's usual in a community. We live in a small community. Yes, Minnesota is big, but in an immigrant community is very small. Word travels quick. So there had been a lot of different. I had, been disconnected from a lot of people. I did not want my message to be received in a way that I was looking for validation or anything like that. I wanted to reach out to other people and show them that no matter how low you can be, you can come back. I just wanted it to be taken that way. And then I realized, like, okay, now I'm taking over the part of where the Holy Spirit convicts people. Then when I was driving up here, I was like, okay, that's not my problem. My problem is to share. I don't convert people. That's God. We can only share. We don't convert people. Yeah. And I was worried about that for a minute. I mean, I remember flying over New York and looking down, and I was thinking about Amazing Truth podcast.
Wow.
So he was one of those. And then I realized, like, I'm worried about something. And my pastor, Pastor Sean, he had spoke about that we go about preaching a message, and we want to go as far as converting people's hearts, and that's not our job. Yeah.
Man, Kenan,
Yeah.
it's so interesting that you're flying over New York instead of enjoying as you land.
You're thinking about Amazing Truth
what is awaiting.
Yeah.
But that's the nervousness
Right.
of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You don't know where your
True.
story is going to travel.
Yeah.
You don't know how people will receive it. You don't know how people will think about it. So this allows us to segment to the second part, the next part of this, is how now post the podcast, how was your story received? Because you met people who had.
Yeah.
And you met people who spoke to you. And what did that do to you as a person, knowing that now I'm out there?
Out there.
I'm out there. How did you handle that? We've been asking Rehema to start.
Let's ask
Yeah.
Kaizo
Let's
this
ask
time.
Aizo to help.
Oh, man.
Fine.
pressure. Thank you, Rehema. So there was, I believe at first I actually got calls from people I haven't talked to in such a long time, and I believe that some people reached out, and I wasn't able to reach back to everybody on time as I would have, I had a lot of positive feedback, like thank you for going out and sharing your story, but I know that there's a percentage of people, usually I think it was the older people who we are going to talk about, that maybe my message could have been perceived in a wrong way, that I was holding other people accountable, but it was good. Generally the feedback was okay, and I still run into people who still talk about that, even as last week.
Oh, wow.
So it's something that I'm happy about.
So
Providing this
right. So
opportunity.
generally, it was that it was a positive experience.
It was a positive experience, and I was wondering if I had shared enough. But then I realized, like, okay, no, I already put out there what I could, and yeah, the rest is gonna be have to,
Right.
upon everyone else.
Go ahead.
If I may add to his point, I like the fact that you asked yourself, did I share enough? Rather than saying I shared too much.
Yeah, thank you.
It means you have more.
Different perspective
Yeah.
of framing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Because because then that will do, it'll hit you different when you say,
Yes.
probably I shared too much.
Exactly.
And then
Well,
if you're
negative.
yeah, and there were some
You go-
critics, close friends of mine, who are like, well, I would have preferred you say this instead of that. I'm like, we have limited time,
and I'm
And then
right.
that was the thing. So yes, there was some critic about, okay, you know what, that was good, but you know what, there was a more tragic, thing that happened in here, but we can't fit everything in.
And it's-
We
and I-
wish we would.
Yes. And I think it's good you said, because again, it is your story.
Yeah.
Right.
It's nobody else's story. The way you put it out, Rehema.
So the reason why I wanted to add on to what he said is because for me, for the first week, I felt like I shared too much. But it's not my
Right.
thought anymore. And the reason being is that because of how we view mental health or mental illness in the African community, and being that I was venturing into this business, it was negative thinking, but I almost felt like people would hear it and then almost disrespect my professionalism because I'd be like, oh, well, you this happened to you, you tried to do that and all of that. But after a week, and there's a Kenyan lady who ended up calling me. I hadn't talked to her in like years. And then we ended up being on the phone for an hour and 40 minutes. And then we met up the next day and just had lunch and talked about everything. But it's seeing people who know you, not necessarily maybe personally, but as you know, we used to go out. So sometimes people know this image of, oh, I go out, this is all I know. But most people, the weekend friends, they won't know what we were going through. So now it's almost like we came out of a cage, because I think some of us disappeared for a little bit. But so
Long
now you
time.
exactly. So you come back, and then some people see you, and I think some people expect you to be what they used to see. But my part thing was, no, I've changed. I'm not mean to you. I won't be mean, but I'm just a different person.
Amen.
So I think it also became relieving, because it's like, if you listen to my story, then you understand why I'm the way I am today. And I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to excuse myself, respectfully.
Yeah. What are you hearing, Ezra?
I have questions.
Yeah, I know you always do. But what are you hearing?
I think what I'm hearing is there's a introspect after they share their story of, did I share too much or did I share too little? What are people going to think? What are people going to say? And which I think it's healthy and it's normal, because if you don't have that intuition too, you can just be verbally saying things that they are out of context. They might be the right thing, but out of context, and that can hurt you or do more damage.
Right.
So I think that's the fact that, I perhaps was a healing space, a safe space, a place to be vulnerable, share the story, and then hear the feedback. I think that I'm hearing that it wasn't a bad experience.
No.
Not at
Wasn't
all.
a bad
That's why we're sitting here.
Yeah, and
Just to add on to something, just to encourage you, in my field, and Director Collins will tell you this, is that when someone has a past like mine, even on a job, when you're running somebody's background, it is the one resume that you give a double take. Like, he wants to be here. And then, you call the other person, like, did you check this guy out? And it's so that way that up until now, and for the remainder of my natural nursing life, I will have to explain. But here's the thing about it, is that God works in different ways, and I can tell you this, that that the last 3 jobs that I've had, first of all, you go in, naturally you're not supposed to be able to go in and get a job. I have gone through 3 jobs, not that I've been fired. It's just that I go in, I get it, and it's no longer working for me. Because if I'm not growing, I can make money. I worked in the different jobs through that whole time and made money. To me right now, jobs are not about making money. It's if I'm not growing, if it's not conducive for me, for my sobriety, and for everything else included.
Get up and go.
You get up and go. And even for the last 2 jobs, it's actually people who sought me out and convinced me that this would be good for you. And now when I go to the table, I talk to them that, hey, my sobriety is my number one thing. I love the opportunity. I love the money. I love the paycheck. But this has to go this way. And you never think that you'll ever control the narrative going into an interview, but it happens. And so when people doubt your professionalism, when they would go around and see the vibe that is around you, then they even more. Now they're like, okay, am I being good for her?
Oh, I see what you mean.
And that's where it's going to go, you know. And it goes that way. And honestly, that's the most humbling thing. That's why I take a step back now.
Nice.
Like, I've taken more days off this year than I have, but it's like, hey, this is not working, right?
I need that space.
I'm glad you do that.
Self-care.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, Kenan,
Getting a
too.
job can be self-care. Trust me.
Right.
I mean, just the fact that you're able to recognize. You know, most people who have your story, they struggle to get a job.
Yeah.
But you know it's going to be a struggle, but you have prioritized your well-being first.
Yeah.
And that comes first. Like the intentionality that is there. It's just because maybe you've walked it and you know the journey, how tough it can be. Some of us who have not gone through that journey think like, I can leave here and walk there, but it's not a privilege. And even those of us who are there don't even think about my healthcare first.
Yeah.
Think about our money and everything. I mean, that's to me, that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it goes to that point where Rehema said, you know, you need to know yourself. Know yourself. Because if you understand who you are, then these decisions will be easier because you know what those decisions will make you, what they'll make you do or where they will take you. So knowing yourself and then incorporating self-care.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
that I need to do this because of myself. And I think you raise a good point, and I want us to kind of talk about that.
Rehema hasn't shared her part.
You haven't shared your part.
Kenan.
Go
I
ahead.
was so busy listening.
You thought we'd
That
forget.
was,
Go ahead. Yeah.
We get carried away with this.
Yeah.
I think I answered first, actually.
No, we went with ISO first this
Went,
time.
And then I think we kind of piggybacked. And then she talked about the lady who doubted her.
Yes.
Professional.
I
yes.
knew I was right. So, but anyway, let's go back to you. You mentioned weekend friends, and that's a very, very
Oh, yes.
that's huge.
Friendship.
I have a PhD in knowing.
Friendship.
Yes.
And what role friends play?
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell us a little bit about that.
So I usually like to say that just because you had a good conversation with somebody does not necessarily mean you have to be friends. So let's say I go out, it's a Friday, it's a Saturday. I meet 3 people that I get along with. We're having a good conversation. Now, if I decide to be friends with them, I'm consciously making a decision to say, if I hang out with these people, this might be the hangout spot.
Yep.
So it's weird. We say Monday, like people don't want to go to work on a Monday. And then I feel like it's not just African community, but the weekend is very, very like put up there. But then when you think of the weekend, sometimes it's more like party or fun or get away. So we associate the weekend with fun things. So if you're only meeting up with your weekend friends, so in your head, subconsciously, I feel like that's the only thing you're associating with you having fun. So when you don't see those people, you're not having fun. When you're home by yourself, you're not having fun. But those weekend friends, if it's a Thursday, something happens and you call them, you can't be mad at them that they didn't pick up because they were weekend friends. But really, which goes back to messing you up because you put this thing into them. So it's almost the knowing yourself part, knowing who's a friend, who's not, and who's an acquaintance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kenan, are you a daily friend or a weekend friend?
You, man,
life.
you're
Now
too
you
much
start
busy.
asking.
You're a daily friend. I need to make you a weekend friend.
And it's okay to decide, I think, to be like, we're just
and there's a space and a
acquaintances.
place for everyone, but I think also
Yes.
defining that space and that place.
Defining.
Yes.
Exactly.
And,
Because
you know,
the way we define relationships, are we
Yeah.
talking? Are we exclusive? Will you marry me?
Yeah.
I think we should also do that with friendships because it's such it's a spiritual bond.
It is.
I feel like most times we call this person friend. Even to I have to be careful with it. But at the same time, are we really friends?
Yeah.
and
Are we
when
really
they
friends?
when those friends walk away, we shouldn't be mad. You
Oh
know?
yeah, I
yeah.
said
If
be
you
glad for
you're
what
there for your reason and
for
for
a
season.
reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, in the African community, the problem is not friendship. The problem is everyone is your uncle and aunt.
Relationship.
You get to a point you're so confused and lost.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have had conversations where young people have said, you know,
Oh, I haven't.
you have conversation. Young people are saying, "Listen, I can marry that person because that's my relative. Like, are you related? Is it blood? No, how you related? I can't explain. I was told they're relatives, or relatives who have abused other young people because they're quote unquote family and
But
all
they're
that stuff.
not.
So I think defining friendship, defining relationship, defining can be a good framework of how you operate and relate with people. You know, I want to, we're just having these conversations, and some people who haven't listened to the other podcasts, they're wondering, what are these guys going through? You know, what is this like? So just if so that I can bring anyone who's in wanting to
If you're
post to go
lost.
this lost.
Yeah.
You know, Iso, you struggled with substance abuse. How long were you, just in a nutshell, how long have you been now sober over a period of, since when?
So I'm gonna answer that. Let me just add on to what Rehema said. One thing I've learned over the years is that once you accept somebody to be your friend, you are also saying that you are okay and willing to align your values with theirs. You're either, and when we join as a team, if all of us here were to play it in a team, then we are going towards one goal.
Yes.
Then we are one team. You are not wearing a different uniform. I'm not wearing a different uniform. So when we become friends, I am saying that I am willing to shed some of mine and take some of yours, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that is where the spiritual bond that she was talking about comes in, is that we keep saying that, oh, I'm above, you are never above peer pressure. That's why the wisest man in the world says, show me your friends.
And I'll tell you your character.
Yeah.
You know.
It's one of the very most overlooked. When you accept that this is going to be my friend, there are things about that person you are accepting and as okay. And you normalize them in your head. Even if you don't do them, you will eventually do them because you think that they are normal.
Ezra.
I need to evaluate sports team I support and the friends I keep around.
So anyway, back to my sobriety. I've been sober since, I quit counting. In 2016, May 8th.
Nice.
Up until now, after 5 years, like I said in my podcast, it wasn't no longer an achievement. It's an expectation. I have to be sober every day that I wake up.
Nice.
And if that means quitting my job, I will. I quit my job. I walked away from something that I was making good money, but it wasn't working because I was getting to be irritable, and it felt like it was taking the most out of me. And there's this part that I reserve for family, friends, and a time like this. I wouldn't be able to do something like this. The more of these things that I missed, I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I lived without that job. I can live without it.
Nice.
If I starve, I can come to your house. I can call
Yeah.
Director Collins. I can come here. I can go to Rehema. She's even closer to me
I
than all of
am,
you
yeah.
guys. So it's
a
one of those
family,
things that
exactly.
we don't even count those.
Okay.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
they kick me out, I've been on a trash bag before. I'll still survive. Yeah.
Can I add on?
Yes, good.
So,
That was spiritual
when it-
connection on the podcast.
when it comes like quitting your job because you're saying, let me choose me over this money.
Yeah.
I feel like in our community, I've seen,
Yeah.
and other communities as well, but
Yeah.
immigrants mostly, it's job. We prioritize the job so much to the point where, like, if somebody's even very depressed, you don't go to work, you get shamed for not going to work.
Yeah.
But then if you think about it, if a person is an adult, they're going to work because they want money.
Yeah.
They want to be able to use their money. So if they're not able to go to work, can we look at the reason why and just
They're
be
not.
gentle with people?
Yeah.
But then again, I think it also has to fall down to the individual themselves. Be willing to be broke, by the way.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, let me be greedy, but be greedy for my life.
Yes.
My sanity. I'll be broke for a month, but guess what? If I'm okay for the next
fine.
5 months, that
Yeah.
works for me.
Yes, yeah. And
We
I
need to be
think-
able to be okay with being broke a little.
And I think that's knowing when to realign your life choices, your
Yeah.
life values, and making sure that what you're realigning is for your sanity. Again, we go back to that.
Yeah.
You know, you quit a job, you quit friendship, you quit something because you're realigning your values.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rehema, if I can piggyback on that,
Of
is you have a business now. But in the field that you are in, you're a woman. and the culture that we are in, and even when we talk, even as a young man, it's not one of those careers that you know, why? Because again, choosing your mentor, like going off what Iso shared, like in your podcast last time you shared like how you found joy in that. Like just walk us through what you do, why you ended up, and how that plays into your being sane and your mental health and stuff.
Well, that's a really interesting question, because I feel like my work has caused some of more of the illness, but also healed it in a way.
Okay.
When I say causing, because of course I'm a woman, we're from Africa.
Yeah.
I don't think you have ever gotten a haircut from a woman in Africa. Like you go to a barber shop, maybe you got your hair washed,
Yeah.
but not cut. So, and then wanting to go into that field, but then having an African family that doesn't see the sense in it, and then also going against it. But then I also come back to this now and say, I think there's a reason why I went through what I went through, because I had to have that resilience in order to say, you know what, you may not see anything in it, but I'm going to stand up for it. But also seeing that verse in that Bible that I saw, which was a book, saying, be still and know that I am God. There's certain things that I do, and I'm like, how did I do that? Why did I do that? But I feel like we need to understand that we didn't create ourselves. So there's certain things that we may be called to do, but we don't know that. So even now, my place and my work is such a safe space for men to talk about emotions and mental health. And then also being brought up in a culture where a woman was second citizen, and then I moved to America. To me, in my head, I was almost like, I want to work with men because I want to understand men so that I can be able to understand myself in a way. So I've grown to be able to look men as my fellow human beings that have that respect of saying, I am this, I am that. So there are certain times where I get disrespected in my work of place, but the customer service part, I have to, But I also feel like it's a thing that will motivate somebody to say, you come from where I come from. I've never seen anybody do what you do. To be honest with you, I don't have that. I don't have an African woman who cuts hair in Minnesota that I can say, oh, I look up to you. Let me be motivated. So then it's that whole where I'm thankful of the resilience that I've gotten, because then it's like, if I don't see a light in front of me, somebody shining the light, then guess what? Let me be that light. But I want it to be so authentic and respected and professional, because then I want to set something.
Okay.
I want to, for women and for us African women, not to necessarily just rely on those things that are predicted for us. It's cutting another human being's hair. So
it's as simple as that. Somebody
It's
defined
simple.
it's only a certain gender that can do that, and it became a norm.
Exactly.
And there are many things that we do like that. They're not bad, they're not sinful, they're not going to kill anyone, but they've been set by norms and stuff.
Ezra,
Yeah.
I know you have, but as you were preparing for this podcast, I think we talked briefly about about feedback, and I want to specifically just for a few minutes talk about the feedback we got from our parents.
There was two groups.
There was two groups of
Audience.
of audience that give feedback, but from what we had, the parents kind of thought that we were a little harsh on them. With
Or even, did you hear that? Like,
what
did
if
you hear?
didn't hear, you're
feedbacks that
hearing
day?
now. That's it was a little harsh.
okay.
What does that speak to you? Just in brief, and you can share as few.
If you had any experience like that or anything.
Right. Well, let's see. I had a 14-year-old girl who listened to the podcast, and she said she loved everything about it. But her part where she disliked was that I was being too lenient on the parents. Yes.
Okay.
So it's interesting that you guys got that too. But I believe that it's African parents and African children in America. We need to be able to sit down and understand that we are in a different nation, different cultures. If anything, the kids have it a little easier. Our parents have been in the same culture, how many years, same language, how many years. But then we come here and we expect them to be on our level almost. So it's very unrealistic, and I think that's why most of us suffer, because we want our parents to understand us. But what you're forgetting is that you want your parents to understand your neighbor who grew up here, but your parents didn't grow up here. So it's almost like a thing that doesn't make sense. So I could see where they may have felt that way.
And it's a genuine feel. We're not downplaying it.
Right.
Well, maybe we not really downplaying.
In that way, then parents know that you've moved to a different nation, learn the culture so that you can adapt to your kids' changes as well.
I think there's a balance.
Yeah.
You
It's
can't
a
live like you're in
balance
Africa and you're
And-
here. Like
and most of
every
us
day,
raise us that way.
right? But at the same time, we can't expect as younger people, our parents, to also fully embrace the American
Exactly.
culture because there's a new culture and a new concept for them, right? So I think just imagine people who have been born in the same context, same culture, don't understand each other.
So how do
Then you have people who move continents, live in the same house, same DNA. You know, some of them have even done a DNA test and they've proved like yes, you have, but still cannot get along.
go
Like,
to the
Yeah.
Mauritius?
imagine how people who come from miles and miles, you know. So, yeah, I'm struggling to understand Kenan, and we're always talking, you know.
Yeah.
But
And I
anyways.
can see where the person is saying we are lenient to them and we are harsh on them. Think about this as young people. It's easier, a little bit easier for us to adjust.
Yes.
For the kids, it's even much easier
Easier.
for them. Now think about a parent who's second generation,
Exactly.
you know, now knows one. So it's we can be a little, you know,
Can
it's
I,
hard. Go ahead. No.
well, parents too, let's...
You're saying it.
I know, this
Are you
is
trying to be harsh
the
now, not
kindest way I
lenient on
can
them?
say it.
Okay, say it.
Let's stop comparing our kids to their friends.
Look at Kenan, he's the parent in this
Oh,
part. On behalf of the parent.
Because sometimes I feel like also it's where you can have a child, right? You know their friends. And then your child comes home behaving in a way that you know that's not them. But then instead of realizing that, wait, that's your friend's behavior, then maybe let me try to, I mean, I'm your parent. If I have to stop you from engaging with that person because they behave or whatever, I can intervene if I can, if I have to. But then again, it's like we blame the child right away. But then it's like, you raised me, you should know me. So if I come home and I have different things that you didn't put in me, please analyze me and then help me. But then I feel like most of it is blame.
Okay.
And then they get to the point where like, okay, well, you keep saying I'm this, I'm just going to be that anyway.
Well,
That's
let's
another
let's
plate.
bring in Aizo. Aizo, what are you hearing?
Yeah.
What did you hear? Feedback and
Very,
stuff.
very interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Rehema. It's a two-way street.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've learned as a parent that there are some
you're a parent
battles.
too.
There are some battles that you're gonna lose. You know, there are some battles that you're gonna lose, and there are some that you're gonna win. You just have to choose which ones that matter the most. The things that we've talked about here on this podcast about mental health, substance abuse, and all these other things that people have shared with, they're things that affect us for the remainder of our life going forward. I live the way I live today because of that experience. Rehema lives the way she lives today because of that experience. And she will forever create and react to things because of that experience.
Yes.
People forget that. I don't walk away from jobs because I'm tired. No, it's because this is not working for me. And when it hasn't worked in the past, I have gone a certain road. So I have to appeal for both people. Going straight to the parents is acknowledging that we are in a different environment. And that does not mean you've lost power.
No, not at all.
That doesn't mean that you've lost control or the grip that you would like to have on your family. I'm a father. I would like to have that tight grip over my son. But I realize that there are sometimes I just need to have to let him jump and break stuff. And then now we are going to progress to the teenage years. Like, okay, when does he take my car and come home late? Now in my head, I'm thinking, is he drinking?
Where is he?
You have to realize that's the first thing. Even us direct and all of you guys here, when your child is nowhere in sight, the first thing you think is they're doing
Even
something
if they're
wrong.
4 years old.
Even if they're 4 years old, there's something wrong.
You have ever had those things where they say that this child has been quiet for so long?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, what are they up
What are they
to?
up to, right? Yeah.
That's fair.
It's that thing that they're doing something wrong. And I think what we are not having enough of, for going both to the parents and the young people, is we are not having enough dialogue.
Oh, yes.
We are not having dialogue where we sit down. You know, today it was news and a big thing that social media was down. Why wasn't it a big thing and whatever that, hey, we got to sit down and talk. We don't talk enough. That's period. I will tell you that. We do not talk enough here. We don't socialize. We don't sit down and talk about, hey, Dad, What is it that matters to you? Tell me about how you grew up. What is it? Why do you react a certain way when I do this? And then like, okay, and then the child. So we need to have enough dialogue. The kids need to, the younger people need to realize that respect also goes hand in hand with spirituality. A lot of these things that we're being asked to be accountable, spiritual, respect and all of those. We can't practice Christianity when you don't practice these pillars of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. I think for me, from my end, is we need to have enough dialogue. That way, everybody can air out.
Awesome. So now,
Well,
go ahead, Rema.
this might be a question for Kenan. No, his children are a little older than yours at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, given the culture we grow up in, I think it might be a few countries. We're almost raised to fear our dads, but go to our moms.
Okay.
So, how do you sit down with a child and let them express themselves to you without feeling like they're trying to level with you because you're a parent? That's very common. Ooh.
Do we bring director?
Actually, you might have to. So it's like, how do you keep that space?
No,
I don't dodge that bullet. It was meant for you, man. That was for you.
I will attempt. I think, and I'm talking from my own experience. This is not directors. Experience will be different.
And people are referencing directors behind the camera.
Directors behind the camera.
I think you might come and wave at some point. Because your director is.
So I have learned to always have that open door communication with my kids. I was raised with a dad who, in an African family, our dads were stern. You know, it was his way or the highway. He walks into the room, you go to your bedroom. So, and time to time, those qualities come out for me as a parent. Because that's what I know. I have learned to intentionally be kind and be friends with my kids.
Yes, that word, friends.
Be friends with them. So when they come, when my kids come from school, I tell how was school? Or when they say, oh, someone at playground, do you not want to play with me? I say, no, that's okay. I have to be kind. Instead of saying, why were you angry? Why? I have to validate her feelings.
Yes.
And this is what you felt. Okay, that's fine. It's okay to feel that way. That's, friends come and go. But deep down, I want to say, but then I have to be kind, because if I'm stern and I rebuke her, rebuke them, tomorrow they won't come and tell me.
Exactly.
And when they're 18, when they're 14, when they start locking themselves in their room, it'll be easier for them not to come to their room and tell me how their day was.
Exactly how it goes.
You have to be. This is our style, is just be friends with your kids and have that, validate their feelings, validate who they are.
So, Kenan.
Director, did I answer it rightly?
Kenan, it seems like we've turned the podcast. But we also have to acknowledge that it's hard. There's a saying that says it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
Right? Our parents and even us, these are things that even if they're cognizant and aware of, do they have the tools? Because the tools you are given is, if somebody used this example, in growing up, if you broke a glass, what was the first thing you're being told? You're being punished for that.
It's not, are you okay?
Are you okay? It's but then developmentally, when you think about the developmental stages, as a child is growing, they're not stable. Like their hands are still, not stable. So when this child breaks the glass and you punish them, you're punishing them for something that's beyond their control. So if that's what was done to you and now you're a parent, that's what you're likely actually going to do, because it's something that was handed down. So a lot of this goes back to what we've done in the deep days, is trauma, childhood trauma that even our folks and even ourselves we might have faced, and is now showing up on how we relate with one another. So we being intentional to realize that, hey, for me, Ezra, I raise my voice. Now, raising my voice, and I can give you my own example with my wife. She doesn't like that because she grew up in a place where it's calm. I've seen that. So when I go calm, I shut down because I don't know what it means to be calm. Or I whisper, like, why are you whispering? I'm here, right? Because it's something that I never really grew up, right? So it's a time. And we have to have grace on each other. But it has to be intention You have to be intentional
Yeah.
in actually knowing that, okay, I'm sorry last time I yelled, but I'll try best next time.
Yeah,
And
and
acknowledge
and
that.
it's true. As before we go back to them, I think it is we can't hide we can't hide in history. We have 49 minutes. We can't hide behind what our parents did. We have to quickly unlearn some of the things that we know where they'll end up with. We have to teach ourselves to unlearn those things because we know where they'll end up. We know the effects they have. Childhood trauma causes obesity. Things like that. There's physical ailments that if you subject someone to that, in the future they'll have mental illness and stuff.
And you wonder where
So,
diabetes is up.
right.
All this
Yeah.
is up. Some of it is those
Started,
traumas that were never
right.
dealt with, and we're dealing
So we have to consciously unlearn those things.
In defense of the parents also, let me address people who are old enough to kind of realize what's going on. You're on the back end of your teenage years, you're going to college. That's a demographic that is also dealing with a lot of these issues that we've talked about here. I think at that point I have to hold you responsible for realizing that, hey, this is my father or this is my mother. He grew up in a place where if I'm going to live in this household, there have to be some rules that I have to abide by. Because if I show him the respect that he feels he deserves, which is not anything out of the ordinary, I can also get him to come to the table. Because accountability is also part of this process. You realize that at 50 something and late 40s or something, if your dad feels like, for example, my dad answers my phone up until this year. I had to get a child for him to stop picking up my phone. Okay. So you realize, because he's always been the head of the family. Everything in the house belongs to him, even if you bought it. Okay, you understand? Because that's how he grew up. He grew up in a family where the dad controlled everything in the whole compound.
Yes.
All right, and one thing that we do now is get up in the morning. Even when I'm gonna go visit, I have to tell him where I'm going. I'm old, but I have to tell him where
You're
I'm
a
going.
father yourself, but you have to report that I'm
I
going
have to report I'm going somewhere. I intend to return to your place. I will try my best to return to a certain time. And if that time comes, it doesn't hurt me to call him and be like, hey,
I'm running late.
I'm in the public transportation. I'm coming home. And that keeps that relationship going. He feels that he's also at this age where he's in his 70s, that he's not being looked upon as trampled over, because there could be two sides of the story that are reacting to it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes, especially our generation that we have gone to school, we learn it. Sometimes your parents are talking like, you don't know. It's almost like you might not even say it, but how you handle it, you show up, it's like
choosy.
you don't know better, right?
Yeah.
We need to start winding up
We need
now.
to start winding up. I think
we can never finish with these guys.
Yeah.
We could talk for a week.
We can go and what makes you think that we're not coming back, before we do that for the next one. But let's do some parting shots on these, key takeaways, your reflection, your journey, something, just something that comes to mind as we start wrapping up.
I would like to say, choose what you want to be, who you want to be, and stand by it, respectfully, of course, with everything else. And know that we are, not that we're visitors because we're here to live here, but realizing the countries that we come from and being realistic and aware of where we are. And then the whole thing with parents as well. So it's about balance, finding a common ground. And then I usually say this, it's not disrespectful, honestly, but there's certain times where you don't need to listen to your parent 100%. They too were someone's children, especially when it comes to careers with us Africans. Please go towards your passion. It is not your mother or your father that will wake up and go to work. And that's how we come to prioritize money so much. And then we forget ourselves because it's like, I have to upkeep this career. I have to upkeep this. But at what cost?
So you found your purpose.
Find your purpose.
And live purpose.
Yes.
Aizo.
Yeah. For me, I would just like to, address I've met more people who are still in the struggle than people who have on the other end. Keep trying, but give it more and more effort next time that you try. And also, make the decision of where you want to be, because you cannot also be trying to do something forever. No. This house, they did not try to build it until 2020. I think when you bought it, it had a roof, right? So, yeah.
That's a good point.
And just keep trying and have ridiculous faith.
Oh,
That
yes.
is honestly how I get by. How I get by. It's ridiculous faith when you choose not to work in this country.
I know, right?
And then you walking around that you are a parent and you have rent. You have to have ridiculous faith.
Yes.
So have ridiculous faith. Honestly, it has paid off.
Yes.
God has
I
never
really
let
agree with that
anybody
too.
have ridiculous faith, in the sense like, okay, even if you want to do something that nobody sees it,
Yes.
as long as you feel the passion and you feel the bond for it, do it. And conviction in your heart is great. Just pray that you have good conviction. And it just honestly keep it up. And for every other person out there who's on the path to recovery or in any kind of way, keep it. Stay on it. We are not there yet. None of us gets there. We will get there in heaven, not here. So we are not here bringing this. No, this is not the second coming. That's gonna come when Jesus comes. We are here to send. We are encouragement. Keep
Yes.
doing it. Keep doing it, but don't keep doing it forever.
Kenan,
Intentionally.
you tell us your parting shot, but also where we're going as Amazing Truth Ministries.
Really? You want me to take that hat?
Not too much.
Yeah.
We're closing.
We are. So I'll just, for today, I think I'll keep saying this is your story. Your story is your story. Nobody can tell your story better than you can tell your own story. And have conviction in your story and find a purpose in your story. So it's you, stay you, but keep focus. That's what I'm getting. You guys have gone as low as you can get. The only place you can go is up. And for everybody, it's your story. However you're writing your story right now, just write it. Now,
Thank you.
as the Amazing Truth podcast, actually I should say the Amazing Truth Ministries, we are building a ministry, and we want to tap on experiences like Rehema and Isaiah. So we're building a ministry where we are. I don't know what I should say. How deep I should go with this, Ezra? Maybe.
Just give us.
Okay,
the
so
top layer.
we're building a ministry that will have 4 pillars. Okay, we want to focus on social, economic, emotional development. So things like your mental health, life skills classes, and training and stuff, coaching and stuff like that. We want to partner with professionals, therapists, doctors, MDs. People that if someone has a problem, we can tier them to one of these professionals, and they can do some coaching with them. We're also working on personal and professional development, career trainings, college prep classes, writing resumes. We are setting up classes where people can come and be taught those things. The other thing is this podcast has been an avenue where we have reached a lot of people. So we want to tap more into that as well. So you'll see more of our content coming out. We'll have ministry through the media also being put out there. And also, spiritual nourishment. We want to nourish ourselves spiritually of your faith, whatever you believe in. We want to have you, build on that. So stay tuned. You'll see Isaiah and Rehema more often. Not just in the podcast, but out there.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. Yep. Actually, they'll be in front of the
in
scenes.
front of the scenes, everyone. In front of the scenes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just want to finish by saying, you've had terms like homelessness. These guys have seen it all. You talk about jobless. They are just laughing about tremendous faith. Attempted suicide. You're seeing it right here, but still alive and kicking. Gender-based discrimination, but success, still pushing on and fighting through that. Being in prison or arrested, but still here, free today. We are not defined by our past and where we have been, but we can scale the mountain to the top and not let our past to define who we are. Our past is a tool for us to empower, encourage, and help others. So if you're out there, don't let your past to define you. Rise up, get up, and do what you gotta do. I'm gonna finish by saying this. Here at Amazing Truth, we have seven principles as we close by. Number one, to how to stay sane in this world. We started that question. We're going to close with that question. Number one, commit to reflect or meditate or memorize a scripture, something positive every day, every morning. Number two, keep a song in your heart. Music as a way. Good song, good music in your heart. Number three, go on God's errands. In other words, volunteer, help someone, do something positive to bring some life and hope to someone wherever you are in your community. Number four, watch a funny clip. Laughter is medicine. Don't be too sad. Some comic relief will go a long way. Number five, talk to someone. Constructive talk, not gossip.
Yes.
Find someone to have a good conversation and talk with. Dwell in a mode of reflection and prayer. It doesn't have to be long, loud, or visible. Just whisper something in your heart for yourself or for someone. And then lastly, eat well, sleep well, and have good exercise. We hope by doing those, you will stay sane. Unfortunately, Kenan and I are working on that.
You forgot one. Always listen to the Amazing Truth podcast.
Yes.
That has been our time. Till next time, make sure you get your 8th reason to listen, subscribe, and like Amazing Truth podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Amazing Truth podcast. We hope you were blessed as you listened. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. God bless you, and see you on the next one.